Sometimes in life, you may feel invisible. You may feel as though no one notices your effort, your sacrifices, or the tears you cry in silence. You may be doing the right things, praying, giving, working hard, and staying faithful, yet the world remains quiet. No applause, no recognition, no spotlight. But hear this today, God is not silent. When we say that God works in silence before He reveals His plans publicly, it means that many of the greatest blessings, breakthroughs, and transformations from God begin in places where no one is watching. Often, people expect progress to be visible immediately. They want confirmation, results, applause, or recognition right away. But God rarely works that way. Just as a seed grows underground before pushing through the soil, God shapes, molds, and prepares us in quiet seasons, long before the world sees any results. During these silent periods, you may feel overlooked, unnoticed, or forgotten. It may seem as if nothing is happening. But the truth is, God is doing His greatest work behind the scenes. He is strengthening your faith, developing your character, removing unhealthy attachments, and teaching lessons that can only be learned in solitude. In these hidden seasons, God shields you from distractions, criticism, and pressure. If a blessing comes too early, before a person is ready, it can become overwhelming or even destructive. So God prepares you privately to handle publicly what He has planned. Nobody saw David fighting lions and bears in the wilderness before he faced Goliath. No one saw Joseph being shaped in prison before he stood in the palace. These stories remind us that the place of silence is not a place of abandonment. It is a place of preparation. When God is silent, He is not inactive. His silence is often a sign that He is building something greater than we can imagine. And when He finally brings His plan into the light, the transformation is undeniable. People will see the result, but not the process. That is why silent seasons should not be feared. They are sacred. They are where God builds the foundation for the blessings that will one day be visible to all. The greatest breakthroughs often begin in hidden places because God frequently starts His work in our lives long before we or anyone else can see the results. Hidden places can be seasons of solitude, private struggles, personal prayer, internal growth, or challenges that only we and God know about. These are the moments when God is building something deep within us: strength, patience, resilience, wisdom, humility, faith, and vision. Nothing significant is built on the surface. Just as the foundation of a building is dug underground before anything rises above ground, the foundations of great breakthroughs are laid quietly in unseen places. Many people want the success, favor, and blessings to be visible instantly, but they often do not realize that God prepares a person in private long before He promotes them in public. He works in our hearts, thoughts, habits, and character because these are the areas that determine whether we can handle the breakthrough once it arrives. If a person is not strengthened internally, they will not be able to sustain the blessings God gives externally. That is why God uses hidden seasons to shape and refine the person before revealing the miracle. Hidden places are also where God teaches lessons that cannot be learned in comfort or attention. It is in quiet struggles that faith is sharpened. It is in unanswered prayers that perseverance is developed. It is in unknown battles that courage begins to grow. Nobody sees the tears, the prayers, the sacrifices, the internal battles, or the late-night wrestlings with doubt. But God does. And when the breakthrough finally comes, others see only the result, not the depth of the process. So when you are in a season where nothing seems to be happening, remember this: breakthroughs don't begin in the spotlight. They begin in secret, where God is preparing you for a future greater than you can imagine. Divine blessings are not dependent on human approval because God does not consult people before He decides to favor, uplift, or bless someone. Human beings often measure value based on outward appearance, social status, achievements, or popularity. But God sees the heart, intention, and faith of a person. When God chooses to bless someone, it is based on His sovereignty, love, and purpose, not on whether others agree, recognize, or believe that the person deserves it. This means no human opinion, judgment, or criticism can cancel the blessing God has decided to release. People may misunderstand you, underestimate you, or fail to see your potential. They may reject you, doubt you, or refuse to support you, but none of that can stop the plan of God. Throughout history, God has elevated individuals who were overlooked by society. Moses had no public support when God called him. David was not chosen by his own family, yet God anointed him. Joseph was betrayed, yet God promoted him. These stories show that human approval is not a prerequisite for divine purpose. God's blessings operate on a higher level. While humans look for qualifications, God looks at the readiness of the Spirit. While people wait for evidence, God sees what is yet unseen. And while others may try to limit you based on your background, past, or current situation, God is not restricted by any of those things. He raises people in ways that no one expects, often surprising those who thought nothing significant could come from their lives. When blessings come from God, no one can block them, delay them, or reverse them. That is why a person must never base their confidence on the approval of other people. The same people who overlook you today may one day witness what God is doing in your life. God's blessings do not need applause, permission, or agreement. When God decides to bless, He simply does. God sees what others cannot see because His vision is not limited by appearance, reputation, circumstances, or human expectations. People often judge based on what is visible on the outside, your current position, your material situation, your mistakes, or your past. But God looks much deeper. He sees the heart, the intention, the potential, the effort, the silent battles, the private prayers, and the faith that others know nothing about. This is why God's evaluation of a person is always more accurate, loving, and complete than the judgment of people. There are moments in life when you may feel unseen or misunderstood. You may do your best, give your all, and yet receive no recognition or encouragement from the world. But God sees every step you take. He notices the decisions you make to remain kind when it would be easier to be angry. He sees you staying faithful when you could have given up. He sees the nights you pray in silence, hoping for a breakthrough. Nothing you do for Him goes unnoticed. When others see weakness, God may see preparation. When they see struggle, He may see growth. When they see failure, He may see the setup for something greater. Because God sees not just where you are, but where you are going. He understands the potential He placed in you before you were even born. And He sees the end of your story, while others only see the chapter you are in. This is why you should never let the opinions of people define your worth or your future. People can overlook you, but God cannot. They may forget you, but He never will. Even when it seems like nothing is changing, God is working according to what He sees, not what others see. And when the time is right, He will reveal the purpose and blessing He has prepared, proving that His vision was always greater than human sight. Private faith produces public victory because the strength of a person's spiritual life is not formed in moments when everyone is watching, but in the unseen times when a person chooses to trust God silently and consistently. Faith is not proven in front of crowds. It is cultivated in the quiet places of the heart. It is in private prayer, personal devotion, discipline, and obedience that a person develops the spiritual muscles required to stand strong when trials come. What people do not see is often more important than what they do see. Behind every visible victory is a history of unseen faithfulness. Many individuals want success, breakthrough, and recognition, yet they may not realize that God prepares a person away from the spotlight first. Private faith is demonstrated when you continue praying even when nothing changes, when you keep believing even when the answer is delayed, when you worship even while waiting, and when you obey God even when it costs you something. These private decisions send a message to heaven that your faith is not based on circumstances, applause, or results, but on trust in God Himself. And when that kind of faith is built, God often rewards it openly. The Bible repeatedly shows that the greatest victories came from individuals who were first faithful in private. David defeated Goliath in public because he had already trusted God with lions and bears in secret. Daniel stood firm publicly because he had prayed privately for years. Joseph experienced promotion before the world because he walked faithfully in the unseen seasons of suffering and testing. This pattern has not changed. God honors faithfulness that is built in the quiet. When faith is genuine and consistent behind the scenes, God will eventually manifest results that others can see. The world may not understand how the breakthrough happened, but you will know that the foundation was laid in silence, in devotion, and in unseen moments of trusting God fully. Hidden seasons prepare you for visible purpose, because the most important development in a person's life happens before anyone knows their name, applauds their effort, or recognizes their calling. When God has a future assignment for someone, a responsibility, a breakthrough, a purpose, or a position, He does not send them into it unprepared. Instead, He allows them to walk through seasons that are private, quiet, and often misunderstood. These periods may feel lonely, uneventful, or stagnant, but in reality, they are divine classrooms where God prepares the heart, mind, and character for what is coming. In hidden seasons, a person learns discipline, patience, humility, and endurance. These qualities cannot be built in comfort or constant visibility. They are shaped in challenges, in waiting, in silence, and in moments where you have to depend on God without applause or support. It is in these unseen moments that God teaches you how to trust Him rather than rely on human recognition. You learn to hear His voice more clearly, to stand firm in faith, and to keep moving even when no one is watching. Sometimes we desire the platform before we have the strength to stand on it. If a door opens before a person has the inner maturity to handle it, that blessing can become overwhelming. God loves you too much to let that happen, so He works on you privately before He reveals you publicly. Think of how trees develop deep roots underground before they ever grow tall enough to touch the sky. Without the hidden work, the visible growth would collapse. When your season of preparation is over, God brings you into visibility with wisdom, strength, and stability gained from the time when no one was watching. And once the purpose becomes public, those who witness your success may not understand the depth of what God built in silence, but you will know the hidden season made it possible. God elevates in His timing, not ours, because He sees the whole journey of our lives while we only see the present moment. We may feel ready for promotion, breakthrough, or recognition long before we are truly prepared to handle it. Our emotions and desires push us to want things quickly, but God, in His wisdom, chooses the perfect moment to lift us up. He understands what we need to learn, the character we must develop, the strength we must build, and the situations we must outgrow before stepping into a higher level of responsibility or blessing. Sometimes delays are not denials, they are divine protection. If God were to elevate someone too early, the pressure, attention, or responsibility might crush them instead of mature them. There are lessons, tests, and refinements that must happen behind the scenes before public elevation. In these waiting periods, God molds the heart, deepens dependence on Him, and removes pride, impatience, or fear that could hinder the blessing. Waiting seasons shape who we are, preparing us to stand strong when the breakthrough finally comes. When God elevates, no one can stop it. No human opinion, system, or opposition can block the promotion God decides to release. He opens doors that were previously shut, brings opportunities that no one expected, and positions a person in ways that make it clear that the elevation came from Him. And because the timing is perfect, the blessing will not just arrive, it will last. We must learn to trust God's timing, even when it feels slow or confusing. Just as a seed cannot become a tree in a day, our lives require growth that takes time. God is never late. He works with eternity in mind, and when the appointed time arrives, the elevation will be undeniable, unstoppable, and exactly right. When people overlook you, God does not, because His attention is constant, personal, and deeply connected to your life in a way that human beings can never fully match. People see only a small part of your journey. What you show on the outside, what you achieve, or how you appear in the moment. They may miss your effort, your growth, or the challenges you silently overcome. People forget, become distracted, get busy, or simply do not understand the value inside you. But God sees every detail clearly and never loses sight of you, not even for a second. There are moments when you may feel ignored, undervalued, or forgotten by those around you. It may seem like others are advancing while you remain stuck. You may give your best, yet receive no recognition, support, or encouragement. But none of this means you are alone. God is watching when no one else is. He sees the work you put in, the prayers you pray, the tears you cry, the temptations you resist, and the decisions you make to stay faithful even when nobody notices. In Scripture and in life, many people who were destined for greatness were first overlooked by others. David was not even called to the lineup when the prophet came. Joseph was thrown into prison and forgotten by men. Gideon saw himself as the least in his family. But even when the world ignored them, God had His eyes on them all along. And when the right moment came, He lifted them in a way that proved His plan could not be blocked. This truth should bring confidence. Your destiny is not dependent on who sees you, supports you, or acknowledges you. People may pass you by, but God does not. He knows where you are, what you carry, and who you are becoming, and when the time is right, He will reveal in public what He has been watching and building in private. Quiet obedience unlocks powerful blessings because it demonstrates a faith that is rooted in sincerity rather than attention or recognition. When you follow God's direction privately, when no one is congratulating you, praising you, or even noticing, you show that your devotion is real. Many people can be obedient when others are watching, but the true measure of faith is what a person does in the unseen moments. Quiet obedience reflects a heart that seeks to honor God, not impress people, and that kind of obedience carries extraordinary spiritual weight. In silent seasons, God often gives instructions, convictions, or inner promptings that test our willingness to obey without explanation. He may ask you to forgive someone who never apologizes, give when you are not applauded, pray when there is no immediate answer, or walk away from something that others think is good for you. These decisions can feel difficult because they cost something: comfort, pride, convenience, or approval. But in the process, they transform your character and align your life with God's higher purpose. Obedience, especially in private, is the seed of blessings that later appear publicly. When you obey quietly, you are building a spiritual foundation deep within your life. Just like a house requires strong structures underground, your destiny requires unseen decisions that stabilize your future. God honors these small acts of private faithfulness more than grand gestures made for outside approval. He sees the discipline nobody else sees, the sacrifices no one praises, and the moments of faith you carry silently, and He responds. Throughout Scripture and history, doors swung open, victories were won, and breakthroughs appeared not because someone sought attention, but because they obeyed God in secret. Quiet obedience is a language heaven understands. It tells God that you trust Him even when you cannot yet see the blessing. And in His perfect timing, He turns private obedience into public testimony, unlocking blessings that no one can take away. Spiritual growth happens in situations nobody witnesses, because the deepest transformation of a person's heart, mind, and character often takes place in private moments that are hidden from the world. When life is quiet and there is no audience, no pressure to impress, and no one to applaud or criticize, a person is free to face themselves honestly. In these silent environments, God works gently but powerfully, shaping areas that outward success or public validation can never touch. Growth does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it is a shift in perspective, a new understanding, a healed emotion, or a strengthened resolve. And these changes usually happen in solitude. Private struggles often lead to the greatest development. When someone wrestles with doubt, fear, insecurity, or disappointment in the quiet, they learn to rely on God in a deeper way. They learn to seek Him not because others expect it, but because they need Him. In those lonely moments, faith becomes personal and genuine. A person learns to pray with authenticity, trust without evidence, and grow without praise. These are the building blocks of a strong spiritual life. God allows private challenges because they build inner strength that public victories will later require. For example, patience is only learned when you must wait. Perseverance is built when you want to quit but continue anyway. Forgiveness develops when no one knows the offense but you choose to release it. The world may never see these inner victories, but God does, and they prepare you for future assignments and responsibilities. When the world eventually sees the results, wisdom, maturity, peace, compassion, strength, they may admire the visible growth, but they will not understand the private journey that made it possible. Spiritual growth is most authentic when it is not driven by attention, but by a sincere desire to become the person God intended. And because it is rooted in the unseen, it becomes the kind of growth that lasts. God's favor is not announced, it is demonstrated. Because when He chooses to bless someone, He doesn't always reveal it with loud signs, public declarations, or sudden applause. Instead, His favor often unfolds quietly, gradually, and undeniably through the changes and opportunities that begin to appear in a person's life. People may not hear an announcement from heaven, but they will eventually see the results. God does not need to make a public statement to confirm what He is doing. His actions speak for themselves. When His favor rests on someone, their life begins to show progress that cannot be explained by human effort alone. Often favor first appears in subtle ways: unexpected strength in difficult moments, wisdom in confusion, peace in the middle of storms, access to doors that were previously closed, or opportunities that others overlook. Others may not notice at first, but over time, the evidence becomes clear. A person who walks with God begins to rise, not because they pushed themselves forward, but because God lifted them. His blessing becomes visible not through noise, but through undeniable fruit. This is important because human beings often look for outward signs to measure success or value. They celebrate fast achievements, instant recognition, and visible approval. But God works differently. He builds quietly so that the foundation is strong before the elevation is seen. And when the breakthrough appears, people may be surprised because they didn't see the preparation. They only see the change that has now become impossible to ignore. God's favor cannot be hidden forever. Even if the work begins in silence, the result will speak. The shift in your life, the growth in your character, the unexpected progress, the opportunities that unfold without explanation, all of these are demonstrations of divine favor. No announcement is required. When God moves, the results themselves become the testimony. You are being shaped when you feel forgotten, because the moments in life when you feel invisible, overlooked, or left behind are often the very seasons when God is working the most deeply within you. When no one is calling your name, praising your effort, or noticing your growth, it can feel as if nothing meaningful is happening. However, in these quiet and lonely times, God is refining you, strengthening your spirit, and preparing you for responsibilities and blessings that require maturity and inner stability. Feeling forgotten is not a sign of abandonment. It is often a sign of preparation. When life becomes silent and the world's attention moves away, distractions fade. You begin to hear yourself clearly. You become more aware of your limitations, your weaknesses, your fears, and your strengths. God uses this clarity to mold your character, deepen your trust, and strengthen your reliance on Him rather than on validation from others. In this hidden shaping process, patience is learned, humility is cultivated, and resilience is developed. Qualities that are essential for long-term success and purpose. Many people want to step into greatness before they are ready, but God knows that a blessing given too early can become overwhelming. So He allows seasons of pruning, teaching, and growth that may not look glamorous on the outside. Think of a seed beneath the soil. The world cannot see it, but it is developing roots that will later support the growth above ground. In the same way, when you feel forgotten, God is anchoring your foundation so that when your season of visibility comes, you will not crumble. Countless examples in Scripture reveal this pattern. Joseph was shaped in prison, David in the wilderness, Moses in the desert. None of them were applauded in their shaping season, yet each became powerful in their appointed time. So when you feel overlooked, remember, heaven has not forgotten you. God is shaping you quietly so He can reveal you confidently when the time is right, when God works behind the scenes to protect and guide you. It means that His involvement in your life is often invisible, yet powerful and constant. Many times you are spared from dangers, setbacks, and missed opportunities without ever realizing it. People often notice only the blessings that arrive, not the countless disasters God prevented. He blocks harmful relationships, closes the wrong doors, redirects your steps, and keeps you from situations that would have damaged your future. Because of this, you may experience moments of disappointment when something you wanted does not happen, but later you understand that God was protecting you, not depriving you. Behind the scenes, God arranges circumstances, moves hearts, and aligns events in ways that appear ordinary on the surface, but are divinely purposeful. You may call it coincidence, timing, or luck, but in reality, God is orchestrating the journey. Protection is not only about saving you from physical harm, it also includes emotional protection, spiritual protection, and protection from decisions you are not yet prepared to handle. He keeps you from stepping into positions you cannot manage, friendships that would derail your destiny, and environments that would weaken your character. God's guidance is often subtle. He may speak through a feeling, a conviction, a closed door, or a quiet inner leading. While others see only the closed opportunity, God sees the danger you were spared. While others wonder why something didn't work, God is leading you towards something better. He is managing outcomes you don't even know you need. Many breakthroughs, advancements, and blessings come not because everything went right, but because God kept the wrong things from happening. Even when you feel alone or directionless, God is working in the unseen, protecting you, guiding your steps, and clearing obstacles that you never even noticed. When the results finally appear, you look back and realize that God was working the whole time, even when you could not see Him. When God opens a door, no one can shut it because His authority is greater than any human opinion, system, opposition, or limitation. When He decides to move in your life, elevate you, or release a blessing, nothing and no one has the power to cancel, block, or reverse what He has planned. People may try to hold you back, circumstances may look impossible, and the timing may seem unfavorable, but God does not need favorable conditions to fulfill His purpose. He operates beyond human limitations. If He declares that a door will open, it will open no matter who disagrees or doubts. Often people fear that their destiny depends on the approval or generosity of others. They may worry that if someone says no or denies an opportunity, their future is threatened. But God is not limited to one person, one job, one connection, or one path. He can create new doors, new opportunities, and new solutions that no one expected. He can use those who were against you to bless you, or He can bypass them entirely. His plans for your life are not at the mercy of other people's decisions. When God opens a door, He also equips you with the strength, wisdom, and grace to walk through it. He prepares your character in hidden seasons so that when the opportunity arrives, you are ready. You won't have to force your way in, fight for recognition, or convince people of your worth. The door will open because God turned the key. And once that door opens, no jealousy, attack, competition, or negativity can shut it. People may talk, criticize, or try to oppose you, but they cannot override the will of God. The blessing may unfold quietly at first, but eventually the evidence becomes undeniable. When God is behind your promotion, everyone will see that it was His hand, not luck, influence, or human approval that brought you forward. When God gives in private and later manifests it publicly, it demonstrates that the process of blessing often begins long before the evidence is visible to others. God frequently starts working internally in a person's heart, mind, and spirit, changing perspectives, healing wounds, planting ideas, building vision, and strengthening character before any outward breakthrough occurs. This means that by the time others notice the blessing, the real work has already been taking place quietly and consistently behind the scenes. The public manifestation becomes the harvest, but the private journey was the planting, watering, and growing stage. Many people only see the result, a changed life, a new opportunity, a successful season, or an answered prayer, but they do not witness the prayers that were prayed in silence, the tears shed when no one was watching, the sacrifices made without applause, or the moments of faith that went unnoticed. God works privately first because private transformation ensures you are prepared to handle public blessing. Without the inner growth, the outer elevation would not last, and the blessing could become overwhelming or mishandled. When the manifestation comes, it often surprises those who witnessed your earlier struggles. They may wonder how things changed so suddenly, but the truth is, nothing was sudden. God had been building, shaping, and opening doors gradually. The breakthrough only looks sudden because the preparation was silent. This is why you should never underestimate quiet seasons. Just because others cannot see progress does not mean progress is not happening. God may be aligning opportunities, sending the right people, clearing obstacles, and strengthening you in ways that only time will reveal. And when the blessing finally appears, it does not need explanation. The results speak for themselves. God shows that what He begins in private, He finishes in public, proving His faithfulness and perfect timing.